Welcome back to Better News Daily. We have some beautiful weather this week, so I hope you get a chance to get outside and enjoy some of that. You may notice that my voice sounds a little strange. I don't know what happened. My voice went on vacation and has not come back. So you are left with the raspy, burly version of Pastor Jordan, which I think adds some real gravitas to anything that I want to say. So we're in the Gospel according to Matthew today, which of the four Gospels is probably my favorite of the four. I've been leading a weekly small group Bible study through the book of Matthew, and after now about a year and 3 months, we are almost done with the entire book. So we've had some opportunities to really dive deep into Matthew. What I want to share today is not one of those deep dive Bible studies. I want to instead share with you something really practical from the Sermon on the Mount. So this is Jesus's magnum opus when it comes to his teachings. He gives a full-length discourse about what it means to follow him and to live in the love that he modeled. So let's just look at a few verses together. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So Jesus says that his disciples are to be two things in the world. What are they? So salt was the first one, and light. Now you've probably heard these two things used as metaphors of Christian living, but let's unpack what they really mean. So I brought props with me, hee. So salt in the ancient world was primarily a preservative. It was used to slow or hinder the decay of meat, which in a time before refrigeration was a necessity. And light, obviously, served basically the same function that it does today, to illuminate the darkness. So these two images together are really profound. Jesus uses them to talk about the two functions that his followers are to serve in their world. Like salt, we have the defensive responsibility to prevent evil, to stop the decay of corruption and sin in our world. And like light, we have the offensive responsibility to spread truth and love and beauty, to bring the kingdom of God to life here in our world. So notice, disciples of Jesus are called to have a double influence in their secular world, to prevent the spread of evil and to promote the spread of grace and truth. Now, just an added word here about the salt. Salt does no good as a preservative if it just hangs out in little salt reserves. Salt can only act if it is spread out on the meat. Now, this illustration might be a little crude, but disciples of Jesus are called to be spread out in their secular communities, not isolated in little salt cellars. If we are to hinder the deterioration of society, then we have to actually engage with our world. Do you recognize where this is? If you've been on a tour to the Holy Land, chances are high that you visited this place. This is Qumran, the location where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. So you can see little caves there in the rock faces, which is where the oldest copies of the Old Testament were discovered in jars. It was an amazing archaeological discovery. So Qumran used to be a community of people called the Essenes. You can see here the remnants of one of their baths for ritual washing. And the Essenes were incredibly serious about Jewish practice. You think the Pharisees were legalistic? Boy, the Essenes took things even more seriously. They saw the unfaithfulness of Israel as such a huge issue that they removed themselves from their own Jewish communities and formed their own communities out here in the desert by the Dead Sea. Now here's why I bring them up. The Essenes in Qumran, we see from their writings, referred to themselves as sons of light. But do you notice the problem? They might have had the light, but they did nothing to let their light shine. Kept in their isolated community of faithful believers, their salt was entirely useless. And we have to be careful that we don't fall into this same trap today as Christians. Now, we shouldn't give in to the pace and pressure of our world and sacrifice our own faithfulness to Jesus. But we also have to be careful that we don't hide away from the world in the name of self-preservation. We are called to be both light and salt. John Stott says it this way: we should never put our two vocations to be salt and light, our Christian social and evangelistic responsibilities, over against each other as if we had to choose between them. We should not exaggerate either, nor disparage either at the expense of the other. Neither can be a substitute for the other. The world needs both. It is bad and needs salt. It is dark and needs light. Our Christian vocation is to be both. Jesus Christ said so, and that should be enough. That quote sums things up really nicely. So my questions for you to think about today are pretty obvious. Here's the first. How can you be salt? What does it mean for you to slow or stop the decay of the world around you? How can you, as a follower of Jesus, take a stand against evil and corruption in this world? How can you prevent the problems that you see around you from growing even larger? How can you spread yourself into your community to enact change? Lots of things to think about there. Secondly, how can you be light? How can you speak about and model a way of life that looks like Jesus? How can you share the truth of who Jesus is to those around you? Being light means more than just being a really nice person and hoping that people connect the dots to Jesus. Being light means explicitly pointing people to the true source of all truth and goodness and love. The beauty of Jesus' teachings is that he can use simple elements to make really powerful, practical lessons for us. It is my prayer that you find a way to be both salt and light in your own world. That's what I want you to think about today. We are going to a different book of the Bible for our last video of the week tomorrow. We will be in the book of 1 Peter. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can get the final few videos of Better News daily in your feed every single morning. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.